The downstairs sprayers obviously promote lewd behavior and should be condemned. Welcome back to Privy. Privy is a podcast about bathrooms, recorded from my home bathroom. I'm your host, Hunter Hoover, and I love bathrooms. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome. We've made it. we're on our way out of summer. We're still in summer. Don't get me wrong. It's still hot as flip, but we're on our way out. Here in the Willamette Valley, at the point of this recording, we've officially hit fire season. Hooray! Stay safe out there if you are one of our service workers who protects us and keeps people safe from fires. Stay hydrated. We love you guys, and be safe. Also, while I'm recording, I have popping up in the bottom where Microsoft spies on me and tells me my weather. It's like fire alert. Like the whole thing's on fire. So heat advisory. It's hot. Drink plenty of water. Don't be stupid with fire. Yes, but since we last joined each other, I've had the pleasure of replacing what is, I'm pretty sure, the easiest part of a toilet to replace. And I'm thankful that it was that piece. So I'll admit, like, I'm sitting in the dining room, and I'll admit, when you hear your kid from the other room shout, "Dad, the toilet won't flush," there's a lot of things that go through your head in a moment like that. One is, Dear Lord, why? But another thing is your brain is filled with the images of the worst of what could be happening in that bathroom. Just images of floating turds, water running everywhere, sopping floors. Your brain also begins to plan. Am I going to have to, what tool am I going to need? Is this going to be an actual, like, get elbow deep in that snake? Or is this going to be a plunger job? Like, how bad is it, kid? And the kids, they don't assess that. They just start shouting that the toilet ain't flushing. But it turns out, for me, this most recent fixture, it was just the flusher. It was the handle knobby part. The inside connection busted, it snapped, and so you just got like a flopping handle. Got it swapped out for a real nice metal one. Kids ain't gonna break that anytime soon. So yeah, in all, I interfaced with a toilet a lot more than I thought I was going to. That's okay. I think it was a needed update to the bathroom. This episode, I admit, we are going to jump back about a year ago to finish something that we started here on the show. Last year on Privy, we started a conversation about bidets. That, due to the amount of information and the need to allow for the modern movements related to bidets to kind of speak for themselves, we split the episode into two parts. So if you have not listened to Bidets Part 1, go listen to that. I might even put a link down below for it, but go listen to Bidets Part 1, where we detail the history and the development of bidets from their outset all the way up to about like the 1900s. But we began looking at bidets, and we discussed their origins. And their origins were in the bedroom, and they were often in the bedroom. That's code for no. Often as a stool. It was like this stool that you like gaddy up your partner and like really gaddy up yourself on it. And you like straddle this joker, and then you like spray and wash down the zone. And it allows for like really to sit and wash your nethers after relieving yourself. Fun stuff. We just needed that invention, I guess. We just had to figure out we got to come up with a way to really, really get ourselves clean. They had to had some wild diarrhea that they needed to get this clean after so often. But the origin was in the bedroom, and bidets at this time were pretty portable. Like, they were a thing that you could take with you. I have a portable bidet, by the way. It works. But yeah, it was a device. It was less a thing that was a part of the toilet and more a bucket or a thing where you could like squirt or get water onto and into the zone to like help clean things out. And it was often used alongside a chamber pot. Last time we also discussed Napoleon's famous silver gilded bidet. And it makes you wonder, does silver's value diminish if it regularly comes in contact with human turds, wet, and other things that come from the downstairs? We ended our part 1 on bidets by noting Maria Carolina of Austria, who was Queen of Naples and Sicily, and she popularized the bidet in the region, and she asked for one in her quarters, and it was one of those things where it's like, well, the Queen wants one, so I got to get myself one too. Yeah, like, I want to be just like her. But the news of and the use of the bidet spread. But this is not really what kicked things off for the bidet. In fact, as the bidet spread to parts of Europe, it began to enter, at least in one part of the world, a little bit of a taboo situation. Because the bidet spread from Europe into other parts of Europe, Asia, South America, parts of Africa. Like, this thing spread like wildfire. And these countries were all about adapting it and using it. But one part of the world did not embrace the bidet. And the reasons for this country's failure to embrace the bidet are widespread. But here in America, we were slow to get on board with the bidet. This sweet, sweet booty sprayer was slow to catch on. But when European settlers settled in what is now America, they knew about bidets. It's a wild thing to think about. Like, when I think of American settlers, I don't think of the bidet also existing in history. It's wild. It's probably because the bidet was so different at that time. But nonetheless, like, it did exist. Bidets were thoroughly embraced by French cultures and had spread to a lot of Europe at their outset. Likewise, as many of the Puritans were settling America, they viewed the French to be overly hedonistic. They're way too into themselves. They're too self-gratifying, and they're too focused on sexual relations. Many of these early settlers to America, if you did not know, were Puritans. And they were often of the religiously pious brand of Puritanism. They were dead set. In our America, the Puritans said, we don't have any time for the sexual frivolity and this lecherous invention called the bidet, sinner. We don't do that here. One main thrust of early American life was the value of hard work and working hard to develop your country. And for some reason, to these early Americans, the act of just blasting your undercarriage post-deuce is just too glamorous to this idea, and it does not lend to a hard-working society. Now, I'm not sure the connection there, but it is a connection they made nonetheless. See, early American settlers, they would rather the turds just dry to their crack than spray wash that noise in any way. In America, The bidet, for much of its history, has been viewed as primarily a very European thing. And they were trying to separate themselves from the Europeans. So while the bidet spread to the rest of the world, here in America, we wiped our buttholes bloody right on into the 1900s. As American soldiers ventured outside the United States in foreign conflicts, over the course of the next 100 and 150 years after America's founding, they came into contact with this strange foreign device. The accounts of American soldiers coming across these bidets were very evident in the World Wars. World War soldiers stationed throughout Europe in the early to mid 1900s found and mentioned bidets as being spread far and wide. And one of the more prominent places that the bidets were said to be found were in brothels and places of encounter such as these. And because they are seen in these places, bidets by many of these American soldiers begin to be associated with loose women and people with loose morals. And it is tied to being this thing that is kind of sexual in nature. It was as if the notions that the early Puritans had about the bidets were proved true all along. It's not confirmation bias at all. The downstairs sprayers obviously promote lewd behavior and should be condemned. They can be found in brothels, after all. It makes you wonder. I wonder if there were any European churches that had this heathen technology installed. Perhaps, and this is just a thought, I'm going to put this forward as a theory. Perhaps there were more people visiting brothels wherein they have more opportunities to see bidets than in religious places. That coupled with this preconceived notion that these devices are lending to this part of society, you can see why the reports would come in that, Europe's just filled with prostitute rings filled with bidets. What are we going to do? Oh no. There's nothing to suggest that the bidets were exclusive to brothels. But as a result, in the early 1900s, the bidet is continued to be viewed as taboo by most of America. A nation founded on these ideas is hard to break from them. Boy, ain't that true. It's hard to shed. It's hard to shed these things. But that's not to say that there are not some in America who gave popularizing the bidet a good, honest college sanatorium try. Now, while there are a few that gave the bidet a go, one prominent bidet advocate was John Harvey Kellogg. Now, John Harvey Kellogg is most famous for inventing, or him and his brother leaning to, inventing plain cornflakes cereal, purportedly. And the story goes, though there's no real way to confirm this, but John Harvey Kellogg and his brother invented the cornflakes to, quote, curb the sexual urges and desires of the patients in their sanatorium in Michigan. This work, however, did whether or not we're trying to dehorn the people, it did a lot to lend to give us modern day cereal markets that we enjoy today. I'm a big fan of Cap'n Crunch, and I'm gonna take it. Here I am. I would be rife if I didn't take it. It wasn't Kellogg that made Captain Crunch. I get it, but like I have to be mad about Captain Crunch for a second. First of all, it's not a captain, stolen valor. Second of all, whoever keeps redrawing Captain Crunch, quit. Leave the captain alone. The captain that you have now is this weird hellscape, claymation, amalgamation, weird captain. He's not my captain. My wife regularly gets after me because I will walk through the cereal aisle and punch this fake captain via the box of cereal. I'm not punching it hard enough to do anything, but I think he looks stupid. I want my old captain back. If Captain Crunch, if you're listening, the people of Quaker, if you're listening, you could bring back a retro style Captain Crunch box. I'd buy it. I'd buy it over the current one every single time. I would. Your market is right here. You're looking at him. But a lot of the modern cereals that we enjoy today probably have a lot of their starts in some of these methods. John Harvey Kellogg was a member of the progressive movement in the United States and was also part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He was named director of the Battle Creek Sanatorium, wherein they treated, quote, the wealthy of society as well as those who could not afford traditional health care. In his sanatorium, he was an early advocate for the germ theory of disease, thumbs up there, and used this approach to begin to work on cutting down on intestinal issues, which he believed were often in the background and led to much of people's health problems and concerns. The yucky things we have going on in our gut lead to us being sick more often. He was a huge proponent of abstinence, not only from sexual activity, but from drugs, alcohol, and the like. I just know, just from hearing about this guy, he loves plain, unsweetened cereal. He's a big fan of Seventh-day Adventism. He loves just germs in your gut, and he doesn't like drugs and alcohol or sexual activity. I just know, without a shadow of a doubt, my dude would have loved modern rock and roll. He's got to be a fan. But many of the treatments that John Harvey Kellogg put forth in the sanatorium are right up our alley here on Privy. Those of note are the yogurt enema. If you don't know what an enema is, and you have been listening to this show for more than a handful of episodes, I guess that's possible, but might as well here, episode 139, 140, I don't know. Might as well take the opportunity right now to just let you know the enema, oh my gosh, is pretty, for lack of a better way of saying it, is when you pump, shove, yoink, or sproink something up the butt, usually a liquid or medicine or other diuretic, and it is done in order to get things to start going the opposite direction, the way they should be going, to help get things moving. It was believed by John Harvey Kellogg that this would help the intestinal makeup and the bacteria and all of those things going on. This seems to be why Kellogg was calling for the regular yoinkage of many of his patients, like enema time. But he wasn't just yoinking people. He also reported to have helped invent or did invent the patent for some of the first peanut butters. It had nothing to do with the enemas, I'm sure. Other notable patents from Kellogg include the radiant heat bath. Kind of sounds like a hot tub, maybe. He's said to have perfected ovariotomies. I believe that is the removal of an ovary, which sounds just bad. Like, ooh. He is said to have made strides in hemorrhoidectomies. Oh, gosh. Is that when you remove a hemorrhoid? I didn't even know you could remove one. I thought you just preparation H'd that stuff and called it a day. Rough day out here. Huh. Rough day if your hemorrhoids are so large you can have them removed. You know what I'm saying? Dude tried it all. Hot air baths, mechanical camel, God knows why. Kellogg did a lot of work coming out of the sanatorium. But one such method used was the bidet for medical cleaning. Now, I want to note the irony here. The irony that John Harvey Kellogg reported to make cereal so stale and bland that people couldn't possibly imagine having sexual intercourse after eating it. The guy who is like, all of your desires we're not doing that. That's the guy that looks at this device that the rest of society and culture and people at the time are like, it's probably tied to sexual activity and is sexual in nature. He looks at the bidet and he's like, I gotta use it. We gotta get that going. Makes you wonder. But Kellogg took the bidet to the next level. You see, in a bidet, the goal is really to clean the surface. That's really all you're trying to do. We gotta get the surface clean. But for John Harvey Kellogg, that's not enough. We got to get it in you. We've got to get the bidet to fire up into you. John Harvey Kellogg came up with a thing that he called the colonic irrigator. But the colon and irrigation are not two words that I regularly want coupled together. I don't really want those two things at once. I have a colon. It's pretty neat. I don't want it irrigated, I don't think, unless I actually have to. More on that in a moment. But the description of this method and device as, quote, shooting, quote, gallons, not a gallon, but multiple gallons up the rectum. Those multiple gallons have to come out. I wonder if Kellogg ever went in to irrigate someone's colon, and rather than making things come out the poop chute, it like if anybody ever vomited, I don't know if that's even possible. I don't know if that's how the human body works. Not sure. But after these people had their colons irrigated, Kellogg would visit his world-famous Kellogg's yogurt enema. Half pint down the hatch, half pint yoinked up the butthole express. And it makes you wonder. So John Harvey Kellogg, he's this religious, but he's this medical professional, scientist person. He's this guy of industry. It makes you wonder why his advocacy for bidets didn't catch on. Like, it makes you wonder if he'd have just toned it down a bit and just focused on the bidet section and didn't figure out how to irrigate people's colons, followed by yoinking yogurt, maybe things would have caught on a little bit more for John Harvey Kellogg. What's even more fun, it is reported that Kellogg would administer multiple of these colon irrigations and yogurt enemas at the same time. It's date night. Set the scene. It's date night, 1900s. You and your beloved wife, Briffany, decide they were going to be adventurous. You know, your friend shared, you're talking to your friend by the pool, you're getting, and you say, what did you, me and Starsky, we went and we just had a lovely evening, got some dinner, and then, we decided to be adventurous. And so we went down to the sanatorium and we paid Mr. Kellogg because we heard about this thing where he just flavor blasts your colon. And boy, howdy, have we felt so good since. Just a whole new, and so, you and Bliffany are out and you're adventurous and you share, and you're like, you know what? They sure seem to enjoy their time. Maybe we should head on down to Mr. Kellogg and see if he'll give us one of these bidet experiences. And you go in, you sign up, you probably sign something and pay. And within the hour, there's over a gallon of water being pumped up your butt. As you stare down a bowl of yogurt, well, at least he's going to give us dessert after. What a guy. John Harvey Kellogg. Should be noted, Whether for good or bad in his inventions and discoveries, whatever you want to say about his inventions and discoveries, Kellogg was kind of a racist and was an advocate of fixing black people, and later was a proponent of eugenics related to this. Sucks. Very bad. Thumbs down for John Harvey Kellogg on that one. So, not great. Kellogg's order of bad ideas. Number 1, being a bad racist. Number 2, spraying gallons of water up your butt, then followed by a half pint of yogurt. Kind of weird, bud. 3rd, hot air baths. Not sure what we're going on there. Do we have like a clothes dryer? Just the bits? Ben Franklin probably would have been on board for that one. And number 4, curbing sexual desire with bad cereal. Nobody has time for bad cereal, Kellogg. And while I'm at it, and this is today, dang it, Kellogg canceled the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts. They're trash. Throw them away. You want to make people not want to have relations? Give them brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts. Yeah, that'll do it. It'll make them just mad enough to not want to do anything. What a legacy. But Kellogg's advocacy of the bidet, it didn't do much because it was impossible to separate many of his extreme views about people from the device, and also like the yogurt stuff. The bidet, as far as America goes, coming out of John Harvey Kellogg's influence, remained taboo. They also remained very much a separate device from the toilet seat. However, there was royalty, self-proclaimed or otherwise, that was going to make some updates to the device. Arnold Cohen of Brooklyn, New York, was a pain in the butt to his father. That's actually not true. He seems to be kind of nice to his dad, but his father had a medical condition that caused pain in the anus. Why? Like, I'm sorry for your dad. I'm Mr. Cohen. I'm sorry that you had that. The medical world is weird. Anal fissures, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what medical condition causes pain in the anus. Probably had teenagers. But Arnold Cohen set out to alter his father's toilet seat to be equipped with a sprayer that he could use to clean and relieve his bottom after going. Bottom. Arnold designed a toilet seat bidet system, which featured a nozzle that sprayed warm water and blew hot air. In 1964, Arnold Cohen patented his design. He founded the American Bidet Company and started marketing the innovative bidet product dubbed the American Sitz Bath. By using large ads and attending trade shows, he tried to spread the word. It was intended for and patented and put out there for use by hospitals and patients who had difficulty using toilet paper or reaching to wipe themselves. This is like the target demographic. Arnold installed thousands of these American Sitz Baths in the suburbs of New York, and the company had offices across the country. He was the self-proclaimed bidet king. But those taboos held strong, and Cohen had trouble marketing his bidets. He figured out something that we have been discussing since the beginning of this episode. While America didn't like the bidet, the rest of the world did. So he exported the idea to the Toto company in Japan, who rebranded the American Sitz Bath to the Wash Air system. Cohen's bidet system, however, failed in Japan as well. And the American Bidet Company seems to be on the rocks. Perhaps learning what they had from Cohen or not, the Japanese company Toto put out the washlet in the 1980s. They plussed up the toilet seats, spread now across Japan like wildfires as they perceived the health and sanitary benefits of the electronic bidets. And it is really these these Japanese washlets that became the stereotypical Japanese bidet experience. These bidets, today often attached or a part of the toilet seat, can have heated water, dryers, and even heat your seat. We have come so far. But the bidet king's American subjects still have not widely accepted his inventions. Things are a-changing, and taboos are beginning to disappear. With shifts in ideas of modesty, new desires for at-home comforts, and the ongoing spread of globalization and travel, that coupled with the environmental toll of toilet paper and the concerns of that environmental toll, bidets are becoming more accepted in America, especially at the turn of the century. You couple this with toilet paper shortages in 2020, people having a lot of more time in their homes to install a bidet, there's an influx of these booty sprayers in the U.S. The American sitz bath and washlet and bidets of the 1960s and 70s were very expensive, costing hundreds to thousands or more dollars. And there's a couple things that I think is going to ring true for people as it relates to Americans and bidets. Americans want the bidet to be mostly built into the toilet or the toilet seat. They don't want a separate apparatus where they've got to bum shuffle over, hose the bee, and then move on. They want it mostly contained. They want to drop squat, spray and pray round 2, reverso, dry and walk away. They don't want this separate deal. So it's got to be self-contained. And they do not want to spend hundreds of dollars on this. They want to spend less than $100 is what they want. In the 2000s, developments of toilet attached and even non-powered water-fed bidets are developed. Notable brands such as Tushy and others boast well-made bidets for a fraction of the price. Bidets that you can install on your toilet as an attachment to the toilet. And that brings us to Hunter's Anecdotes to keep you afloat. Hunter's Anecdotes is my account of a bidet. My first encounter with one of these devices, I went on a study tour to Israel in 2014, had a blast, and I longed to revisit the land. But while there, my buddy and I, Micah, shout out Micah, if you listen, don't think you do. We were roommates during the time, and we go into this hotel hostel room that we were in, and we're going and we're like, well, there's 2 toilets. It was weird. There was a toilet that looked like the toilet that we knew and love, but then next to it there was this other seat, and it looked a little bit funny. And I just remember my buddy playing with that, and he totally yoinked himself with the water, and I just hear this, whoa, coming from the bathroom. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, oh, dude, it sprayed me. And I said, what? And he goes, the toilet sprayed me. And turns out it wasn't a toilet, and I think he did shaz into the bidet thing, but whatever. But that was my introduction to bidets, and one of my greatest regrets. Now that I do this show, 10 years ago, I had no idea. Actually, it was almost 10 years to the date that I was in Israel. I had no idea I was going to be doing this show. If I did, I would have saddled that guy. I would have totally been all over that bidet. But I didn't. And it's a regret that I have. Here we are. But I would see these things pop up as we traveled the region. And I was afraid to use one. I had that American kind of, it's taboo, it's weird, I don't need nothing spraying my butt, I'm just going to wipe and go. But then, around the time of the pandemic, shortly after, I started doing this show, and one thing became abundantly clear. I can't continue doing this show and not have used a bidet. Like, I got to get my B on one. And so, my wife purchased me an at-home bidet, and then I had it, but still, I had this like American tabooism where it's like it's just weird to have, and I have it, but I'm a bit afraid to install the thing, because then once I install it, I've got to use it, and then it's the day of reckoning. There's no turning back. Once it's attached, you got to use it. So as a gift and as a surprise, my wife, with the help of her brother, over the phone, installed the bidet, the trusty bidet, and we'll see if we can do this without killing the recording. But I don't know if you can see it. Yep, there she is. There's the nozzle. So we have had a bidet on our toilet here at the house for almost a year now. And I'm 1 year in as a bidet owner and user. Bought one and sat on it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you my account. And if you go look on Privy socials, I've been holding on to this one, but we're going to post maybe footage of my first bidet yoinkage. But man, it catches you off guard. Like, if you're not ready for that, your butthole has never experienced anything like it. Like, I squealed because it's just not normal. It just doesn't. There's nothing that prepares you to get like super soakered in the butt. It's just not. Nothing does it, and it shoots far and it shoots fast. But one thing that I want to share is, if you're not careful with a bidet, if it's got enough pressure, you can kind of give yourself a low grade accidental colon irrigation. Like, you can whoopsie enema yourself. I call it a whoopsie enema if you ever like turn the bidet spray on too fast and your butthole's not puckered enough. Like, you can actually like whoopsie enema yourself, and it's kind of freaky. It does get you clean. I will say, I don't, as a bidet user, I guess that's me now. Hi, I'm Hunter. Bathroom podcast, unnecessary bathroom podcaster, and bidet user. I don't know how much paper it saves, because I find myself using about the same amount of paper I would have used to just wipe myself dry from the amount of liquid that has entered the zone. I understand, and I need to talk to her. Maybe this is a question for Anna next time she's on the show. I understand that women use this to like spray the lady area. There's no draw to that for guys. It's too cold and too forceful of pressure. I will say, you'll find out more about that at the end of the month. But after a procedure that I had last year, the bidet was nice because I didn't have to bend and shut. Like, I could just reaching was not as big of a concern. So if mobility is a concern, and it is not, like, it is comfortable. I noticed that like there's less chafing because you're doing less wiping. It's enough. Nobody wants to hear any more about me and my bidet experience. This has been Hunter's Anecdotes to keep you afloat. Bidets are pretty neat. They've come a long way from the early days of the bedside chamber sprayer and wiper. They're pretty neat. They've got a lot of things going on. Mine was very inexpensive from what I've heard from Anna, and from what I've looked poking around with it. Pretty easy to install. Doesn't have any batteries. It attaches to the water line. That is what powers it. You just got to avoid the accidental enema or the colonic irrigation. And as long as you keep yogurt out of the bathroom, you're going to be just fine. Looking at you, Kellogg. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you so much for being here. As always, leave us a rating or review. The 5-star options are preferred. Helps people find the show. Share the show with a friend. Get on social media. Get on there. Hit share. Share the episode. Say, hey, my buddy Hunter talked about bidets. He used the word enema more than I am comfortable with. But here it is. Share the show with a friend. It helps get the word out, spread the word about the show. It's important stuff. If anything, to raise awareness of the dangers of John Harvey Kellogg and how brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts are bad. But for every rating and review you leave, we'll donate $1 to the Wounded Warriors and Living Water International. As a reminder to keep pooping in the free world. That free world was not always free, and some parts of the world are less free. And some, by extension, do not have as clean of water as we have. Let's go for cleaner water for all. You can follow us on social media. We're at Privycast. You can follow me. I'm at Owlet7. Follow Randy Bowles at Randy Bowles. You can send us an email, privycast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Episode suggestions, ideas, questions, concerns, feedback. Send me pictures? I don't know. It's always a dangerous thing to ask. Privycast@gmail.com. You can hit us up there. We'd love to hear from you. Visit us online, privy-cast.com. Website's up and running, and we're going to have some cool things landing there soon. Stay tuned. Eyes open. Thanks to Kevin and Podington for the use of their music again this week. Check their stuff out in the Doodly Bopper below. Thanks, Kevin and Podington. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Keep pooping in the free world. Avoid the accidental enema. And now, as always, don't forget to flush.